tip today for those, as a reminder, is you must get your house in order before you start investing. Now, we see it in the Facebook group all the time. If you're already an investor, what can happen is things can come up and you have an emergency and you pay that out of the emergency fund, but you keep on investing. You don't pause to go back and top up the investing fund. Everything that I'm talking about today is through the lens of, once you're invested, I want to keep you invested. It's through the lens of, it's hard to stay invested, but it's so easy to start investing. And there's the difference, okay? It's so easy to book a PT session. It's harder to rock up every week. So pulling the trigger on your tasks, your activities, things that you want to do, things that you want to be better at, is actually so easy, but it's so hard to keep on course. So when I talk about get your house in order, and feel free to skip through if you actually do have your house in order and you are an old hand, maybe skip through 2 or 3 minutes. I really think it comes back to that sound financial house that I always teach about. You've got to make sure you've got your emergency fund. You've got to make sure that you have a spending plan or budget or some type of system that works for you in place. You've got to make sure you've got your insurances. So if you couldn't work, where's your income coming from? You need income protection insurance. And you've also got to make sure your wills and estate plan are in order. And in the new book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, there's one thing that I've covered in this book that isn't really in a lot of personal finance books that I've seen in Australia. Now, I've seen a lot. I haven't seen them all. But I talk about the estate planning considerations of your investing. So if you were to fall off the perch tomorrow prematurely, what happens to your money? So we have to get our house in order before we bother and before we think about investing. We don't care what brokerage account, we don't care what investments, we don't care how good the market is, how bad the market is. We need to focus on getting our house in order first. Now, the reason I need to say this is because there are people listening who have sizable investing portfolios and have got the heebie-jeebies and really started amassing that wealth, but they've never got out of consumer debt. They've never got an emergency fund. They don't have their income insurance. And this is so important because these things in place to have your house in order will honestly keep you invested. Remember, it's easy to start investing. It's hard to stay invested. Now, what if you say, Glenn, I just love the idea of investing. My emergency fund isn't 100% full. I don't have my income insurance yet, but I just love investing. Well, I want you to love investing. And what I did, if you make a note of page 30 when you get the copy of the book, there's actually a little table that I put in there for those that might not have their house in order but still want to be engaged with their investing. I hypothesize, and this is even for those who are already investing and need to go back around and put their house in order, I hypothesize that you should maybe allocate no more than 1% of your total income to investing while you get your house in order. So what that could look like is, we'll just keep it round numbers. If you earned $70,000 per year gross, you would not put more than $700 per year into your investing account. And that could be $58 per month. Okay. So that could be a good way to keep you focused on your investing, to keep you encouraged and inspired to be an investor, but really working on the foundations of your sound financial house. Now, when I talk about get your house in order, I don't just mean your financial foundations that I've discussed. I'm talking about your other short-term and longer-term financial goals. Now, if you've got a short-term financial goal of, hey, we're going to the Amalfi Coast next summer because everyone's there at the moment and we're jealous and we want to do that, well, you've got to make a decision that because that is a short-term goal, I don't think there is any point investing any money if you need to access that money within 5 years. There, I said it. Just call it 5 years. Now, if you don't know what your long-term goal is, and we'll get to it in the second tip, I would still recommend having that emergency fund and maybe still being cash heavy and only committing maybe that 1 or 2% as a maximum to your investing until you really firm up your financial goals. Otherwise, you could make the call, hey, we do want to go to Italy next year, but we're actually not sure. It's kind of a wish, it's a want. Okay, well, invest that money, but just know, and this is the cool thing about being an adult, once you know the framework and the way the game works, you have to play by those rules. So for example, if you invested, I'll just make a number up, $5,000. So you've got a couple of grand for flights, some accommodation, food and all that. So I think it'd be reasonable to say it could cost $5,000 for an international holiday to Europe for 3 weeks. Probably more, but we'll stick with $5,000. The rules of the game when it comes to your money and investing is, if you commit that money to any type of investment, you need to really know that if it's less than 5 years before you need to access that money, there could be a chance that that $5,000 capital could be worth less than what you put it in. So what does that mean? Well, it means that when the time comes to withdraw some money for your goal, you, one, take the loss, go, yep, I was going to outgame the system. I knew it was going to be less than 5 years. I'm laying in the bet I make for myself. This $5,000 capital is now worth $4,700. I'm going to withdraw it. I rolled the dice and I lost. Okay. Now, investing isn't gambling, but go with me on this analogy. Or you say, well, the capital is under what we put in, so we're not going. We'll wait and do it in 12 months' time. So you could do it that way. But knowing the rules of the investing game, I really think the major rule of the investing game is, if you put money into markets and you need that within 5 years, there is a very high chance, or higher than not, that throughout those 5 years, there could be some movements in that capital amount within the first 5 years. If you invested 12 months ago, the market may have done 30%. Congratulations, you struck it lucky. But we are in very interesting times, given that both the S&P 500 and the ASX 200 are at record highs at the time of recording this in July 2024. Now, getting your house in order, it actually means your foundations, your lifestyle goals. So you can't look at money in a silo as if, okay, I've got $5,000 here. It's saved to go to Europe, I think, or I want to have that investing. I want to have that invested for the future. I'm going to put that aside. You must have your money as part of your life and your lifestyle goals. Because if you do that, you'll be able to stay invested. Now, one of the best ways to actually invest and stay invested, because you won't have a choice, is salary sacrificing to superannuation. So you can actually do a behavioral hack, salary sacrifice a little bit each week, each month or whatever to super, or at the end of the financial year, put your own contribution in, and that will kind of do that behavioral hack where it's like, I'm locking this money away so I don't spend it. So that's what we're talking about. You've got to get your house in order before you start investing. Now, for those listening, if you've been investing for many years like I have, I want you to have a think, has your house got a bit out of order over the last few years? Can you swing back around and do an audit on everything? Now, the cost of living is pretty crazy at the moment, and I just want to make sure that, going back to that point where you can't operate your investing money in a silo to your other money, I don't think. I'm happy to be proved wrong, but just from my experience, we've got a big pie of money that comes in each year. Out of that pie, it's got to come food, shelter, transportation, utilities, basic living crap, right? Out of that pie also has to come your minor luxuries and your lounges and your holidays and all that stuff, and investing for the future. It's a matter of gravity, it's a matter of science, it's a matter of fact that if you put money from the pie into an investing account and there is no more income to pay for your said lifestyle goals or personal goals, that money has to come from somewhere. More times than not, people, this is just what I've seen, will put their fingers in the cookie jar, the investing cookie jar, get that money out, and then put into car rego because we didn't have a system in place and it's just a bit chaotic. So I'll stop there. Get your house in order. This is your drill sergeant. This is basic training tip 1.